Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Ebola update. Today is Tuesday, June 18th, 2019, and this disease is on the move. It's spreading down in an area in the deepest part of Africa, the Congo. And it's trying to move into the nearby countries. Now, we're going to open up the charts right here, and we're going to take a look at what's going on. There's very porous borders in these areas. It says this is from ABC News, it says several well-trodden paths crisscross the lush area where people walk in the Congo. So, if you can picture, now in Africa it's not like here, they do a lot more walking, people do in Africa than here in our country. We have it so that we try to almost fight over the closest parking spots to the grocery store. I mean, I've heard arguments in the grocery store parking lots about them having to park one space further out. In other words, 8 feet further. They have to walk 8 feet further to the store. But in Africa, they walk everywhere. They walk all day long. Sometimes it's not uncommon for them to walk 5-10 miles back and forth through these paths that lead through this lush area in the jungle where they go here in the Congo to visit relatives in other countries and so on. They'll walk. And so while they're going down these paths, they meet up with other people they know and stuff, and they shake hands and pat each other on the back and everything like that while they're walking on these paths. If you can kind of picture this in your mind, sometimes they might be carrying stuff, as they're walking down the paths, and there's pedestrians. Says the problem is that these pedestrians may be unknowingly or unwittingly carrying the deadly Ebola virus. And because they walk a lot, they talk to a lot of people, they're spreading it. And it's killed more than 1,400 people, and it's on the spread. And so it's making it very hard for them to stop the spread of this thing into nearby countries. It says the footpaths show the close kinship between the two countries while they walk from one village to another. Most of the people have relatives on both sides of the border. But as Ebola rages, they are a source of worry for health workers and local authorities trying to prevent any further cross-border contamination. Eastern Congo has battled the Ebola outbreak since August. And last week the disease spread to Uganda, where 2 people have died from the hemorrhagic fever in Uganda. The border, it says, is very porous. Okay? So now, we got these porous borders, where people are walking back and forth between the borders on these footpaths and stuff, and they have family relatives over here and family relatives over there. They can carry it into these other nearby countries. So, now, this could have been stopped if we had the World Health Organization. It says Geneva. The decision was made in Geneva. The World Health Organization on Friday said the ongoing Ebola outbreak in the Congo, which spilled into Uganda this week, is an extraordinary event of deep concern, but does not yet merit being declared a global emergency. Now, if they had declared it a global emergency, these borders would be contained better than they are being. My idea is, why wait? Why wait until it does spread into these other nearby countries? This should be declared a global emergency so that this can be contained much quicker. It says the UN Health Agency convened its expert committee for the 3rd time to assess the outbreak, which some experts have said that it meets the criteria to be designated an international emergency long ago. This is what the experts are saying. They're saying that long ago it meets the criteria to be designated as an international emergency. But the World Health Organization is waiting. This outbreak, the 2nd deadliest in history, has killed more than 1,400 people since it was declared in August. At a press briefing following the meeting, Dr. Preeman, the acting chair of the committee, announced that the outbreak is a health emergency in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but that the situation does not yet meet the criteria for being declared a global one. So there we have it. Now, this is a very interesting article, and it shows graphics of what's going on with the Ebola right now. First off, we're going to take a look at this graphic right here. And this shows how rapidly, if you take a look at the blue line, you can see the caseload is increasing rapidly ever since its beginning. It's never stopped increasing, the caseload. The amount of Ebola cases that's actually out there has never stopped increasing. And you can see right now that it's exceeded 2,100 cases, of which we've got 1,411 deaths. So that's more than 50%. It's looking more like right now 1,400 compared to 2,100. It's looking somewhere around maybe 65%, 60 plus, maybe a little bit percent of mortality. And we can see the increase consistently. Now we can take a look at these countries where we can see from the different months. We can see shaded in pink right here. Now let me hone the chart in a little bit so you guys can see. Light pink, as it gets darker, it gets more serious, and in more areas. So we can see back in August when it first started, we can see just light shades of pink here in different counties within the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There was 3 counties that had it, and it was very light pink. Then when we move to the next month, October, it's not in 3 counties anymore. It's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 counties, and it's still a light shade of pink. And when we move to December, okay, we can see it in a lot more counties, and we see the first dark pink area where there's a cluster of cases. And we can see it in even more counties. And when we move a little bit further into February, we can see it getting worse. It's in more counties, and the dark pink area is spreading out bigger. And then when we move to April, we can see that it's getting a little bit worse, and we're getting some really dark shades. That's more cases. And then by the time June comes along, it's even worse again. So you can see that the disease is compounding and growing every month in caseloads. Here's another chart right here. It shows how the Ebola is spread. It shows how it invades the cell. It cuts a little hole in the side of the cell, and then it replicates itself in this little strand of red-colored DNA. And then what it does is that surrounds itself and makes a new Ebola virus to go out and attack yet another cell. It copies and reproduces itself, and it's released back into the system. Here is how a Ebola treatment center works. This is probably on this drawing is probably showing the best case scenario of what a Ebola treatment center is like. How they set up about 3 or 4 tents, and they have about 9 beds in each tent, and then they have Ebola workers around that are in the yellow suits that are keep themselves protected from the Ebola patients. Generally they use sterilization. They use different types of chemicals and stuff, and they spray themselves down with chemicals and everything, and they wear face masks and everything. When they're working in these areas, they have you see here it says decontamination. They have a decontamination area, and they have staff dressing rooms, and it's all separate. The staff area is all separate from the and here's where they bring them in down here, confirmed case entrance. And then what they do is they go in this camp, and basically they suffer through the Ebola inside the camp while they're watched over by these care workers. So anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening to this Ebola report. Probably be doing this Ebola report for quite a while, because generally how these diseases work is the disease keeps increasing in number, until finally it gets to a point where it starts to turn and go in the opposite direction. And we're not even close to that point where this disease is ready to start to turn and they're ready to turn the tide. It's swelling daily. There's getting to be more and more of it. It's growing. So we're on the uptrend in this, where the amount of patients is growing and there's getting to be more and more outbreaks of it. It'll hit a point at some point in the future. I don't know how far into the future, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 6 months from now, where it'll be maximum amount of cases and then it'll start to dwindle back. This is how it works, you know. They start to get more and more control over it, because they have to move in resources, and they have to move in medical teams, and they have to move, the World Health Organization has to go in, and they have to bring in people and equipment and everything else. It takes time. Meanwhile, right now the disease is already mobilized and growing. It works very similar to a fire, you know. How a fire it has its point where it's spreading, and then finally it hits a point where it's consumed all it can consume, and then the fire starts to, they bring in firefighters and everything else, and after a while they finally get it under control. And this works exactly the same way. So, but it might be quite a long time before they get this under control, and gosh knows how much larger it'll get. But it's on the grow side right now, so it's growing and getting bigger and expanding. So I'm going to be covering this story until basically it's under control. And we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.